What's up, guys? First of all, Happy New Year, and yeah, welcome back to another video. In this one, I kind of wanted to address this whole comment thread, because with text, this is just, this is a message that might not get through, or we might not be on the same page regarding understanding these terms, such as VU meter, headroom, or like just peaks and limiters and whatnot. So yeah, in this video, I just kind of wanted, first of all, clear up this confusion and kind of show how I think about it in my productions and what are the other ways to think about it, because there's of course there's many ways to go about headroom and many ways to like go about just leveling in general, peaks, RMS, and all these things. So first of all, when you refer to VU meter, I will assume that you meant a peak level meter. I already have prepared this this little sample here in Ableton just to show like what I mean by what's a peak level or RMS level meter, just so again to clear up some confusion, because a VU meter is like, what that means is that a volume unit meter, and that's not so most DAWs these days don't have VU meter directly. They have an RMS / peak meter level. Logic, this is only a peak meter, but what you can see here. But what Ableton has, it already displays the RMS with the fuller green line, and the more like transparent, or the less opaque, I think that's the word, right? The stuff that's gonna be behind these bars. So let me just show it, and it's gonna make sense. The audio doesn't play, I think, from Ableton when I wrote it, so I can just talk freely over this one. But you can see that this whole green bar, what this refers to is the RMS level, and the higher one, where it also leaves those like these little things on top that shows you where the peaks were. So first of all, I assume that this is what you mean by VU meter, because there's an actual VU meter like that comes with plugins as well, which looks like this, but this is not the same concept how an RMS or like peak level meter would operate. This is slightly different, pretty close, but slightly different still. So now that we got this out of the way, let's get to the more important parts of this discussion, which is like about headroom, whether to leave headroom or not leave headroom. The purpose behind leaving headroom, and this is why you hear this advice to leave headroom. The purpose is to not cross 0 dB full scale, which is basically 0 on your output. This is what this really truly means. And to achieve this, you can either use a brick wall limiter. My brick wall limiter of choice, which I've showed a million times, is this Ozone 8 maximizer. If you have this one at the end of your output chain, then you don't really have to worry about clipping ever again, which is to cross this 0 dB full scale. If you don't want to master the track in this same project file, and you don't want to have a brick wall limiter at the end of your output chain, that's the part where you will need to worry about headroom, because you do not want to cross this 0 mark. But again, just another thought here, because when you decide to bounce something, it will give you this option to normalize. But actually, let me just demonstrate this, like, real quick. I'm just gonna make some random demo here. Okay, I don't want to spend too much time with the sample selection right now for this little demonstration. So the point is that I'm now going to cross 0 dB, and this is going to sound, I assume at least, without even listening, that this is going to sound pretty bad on a, because so as I'm recording this to video right now, the converter is going to cross the 0 dB full scale. And this is what's going to result in a digital distortion. And this is also another concept, that the converter is going to automatically shave it at 0 dB. But this is what really digital distortion is. So just. So even I can hear it, that there's a bunch of distortion created here. And this is what clipping is, and this is what you want to avoid. This is why you don't want to go over this 0 dB full scale, because it sounds like this. This does not sound pleasant. This is not a great experience for the listener, or like anyone really. So how can you prevent this? The first method, which talked about in this comment, you can leave headroom, which is basically all that means is that you turn down these faders. There's nothing scientific about this one. And boom. All of your peak problems solved. But obviously now the level of your audio is much lower than how it was. The perceived loudness is what I'm talking about. This is why I'm always checking this meter, for example. So if you want to have relatively the same loudness, but you don't want to cross 0 dB, that's the point where you can use a brick wall limiter at the end of your master chain. And For example, I'm just going to set up this one like this. You can see what it's doing, right? So it's shaving off these peaks. It's like, this is how literally a brick wall limiter works. It's now the higher quality the brick wall limiter, the less this distortion is going to be audible for the listener. And as I've said many times in videos, this one I really like because it's super transparent unit. If you set it to this IRC4 algorithm, it even has a dynamic EQ behind it, which even further helps with the transparency. I also like this Pro L2, especially on this transparent setting. So there's quite a few good brick wall limiters which are sounding good. But if you do not want to worry about like loudness and like mastering the track in the same project file, then you can basically just leave Headroom, yes, because this way you also do not cross 0 dBFS. So if this is not a worry for you and you just want to care about like making it loud later on, that's okay. But this is why we are using a brick wall limiter at the end of the master chain to like get this one going. Now, if we want to get more sophisticated than this one, so for example, if I want to have these individual sounds to peak at less, like literally to peak at less. So this kick is right now peaking at 0, minus 0.2. Now, if I want to reduce this peak, again, I can just use a brick wall limiter to like shave it off. This is not something I would recommend unless you really understand why you're doing it and when you're doing it. But there's a method. So I'm just going to show what this method is really. So you can see there are these peaks. Now, I don't want to worry about true peak on a single channel. That doesn't make much sense. But you can see here are the peaks. Now, as I go with this one, I'm also lowering the output at the same time as I'm raising this bar. You can see the peaks have been shaved off. Now it's at minus 6. Once again, we have the peaks at 0. Again, I can just shave off like whatever I want. Like this is very obviously damaging the transients a lot. So again, this is not something I would recommend unless you know why you're doing it. But once again, I'm just saying there's a method to do this. Let's do it like something like this. So like right now, you can see the limiter doesn't do anything because we are not even reaching the 0 dB, so it doesn't have anything to do. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start pushing the limiter into this, and we are now basically mastering in the same project file. I have a brick wall limiter at the end of my chain, and this process is happening whether you left Headroom or not. I just, for the sake of demonstration, I chose to leave Headroom right now because I want to show what's going to happen if I export this without a limiter and then I import it again. And well, let me just show you what I'm talking about because it's easier to show than to talk this. So let me just set it to transparent, and these were the default settings. I didn't touch these, and let me just export this real quick. Okay, so now we have this one in the project right now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove so I'm going to deliberately leave myself 10 dB of headroom. I'm gonna export this one as okay. So now we have both of these in this project. So the whole point of this demonstration is that I'm going to switch the phase of this one. I'm going to put an L2 once again with transparent setting and 10 dB of gain, and there shouldn't be any sound playing back if these two are the same thing, which is going to be the same thing. As you can see, there's no sound going on, which means whether I'm mastering in the same project file or whether I'm mastering after the fact that I exported something with Headroom, that's not going to matter regarding to what's going to sound. Literally doesn't matter. And for me personally, this is not, and I don't always do this, but in like I would say 95% of cases, I prefer to like have at least an approximate master chain going on in my track. And even if someone else wants to master it, that's okay. Like in terms of like if I sign something to labels, sometimes they prefer to master their releases. That's okay. That way I can just remove my end limiter, send a pre-master, and send it like this with overload protection only or like on, that again, that it's not going to matter. If you so actually let me show this once again. So you can see again, I'm crossing 0 dB. Now I'm going to export a version with overload protection only. So this is the normalized version. Now you can see what the export did is it pulled back the peak for this thing to peak at 0. This is what was important for us. And if I send this type of level to any mastering engineer, if the mastering engineer wants to have headroom, this is what he's going to do. Boom. He now has 6 dB of headroom. He now has 8 dB of headroom. He now has 10 dB of headroom. It doesn't matter how much. All you have to do is pull back. If you don't cross 0 dB, then headroom doesn't matter, because you can just lower the level. This is why I never understand these headroom types of questions, because it's just quite literally, it doesn't matter. If you don't cross 0 dB full scale on your output channel. This is the whole point of this discussion. If you have a limiter, a brick wall limiter at the end of your master, then you don't even have to worry about peaks and whatnot. This is what's going to shave it off. If I feel that the kick drum is distorting with everything else, obviously I will level it a little bit better, like, I don't know, like something like this. But then I will set up something that's called sidechaining. Sidechain, what that means is I already have this trigger set up here, which is basically a cutoff kick drum. So this is basically the transient and a little bit of the low end content of a kick drum. This is what I use as my sidechain trigger. It's very short so that I can very accurately dial in my compressor settings. What I can do here is set up a sidechaining to this kick. It still distorts a little, but it's not a tragedy. I would need to dial it in a little bit better and level it a little bit better. But just so you can see that there's alternate ways to go about these peak issues, because what sidechaining does is it gets the way out of the audio when another one is playing, which you want to prioritize. In dance music, in house music, and basically in all electronic genres, you kind of want to prioritize the kick drum to have it cut through, and sidechaining is a good way to go about it. Not everyone prefers sidechaining though, and this is why some people just going to use more heavy compression on their output, and then the brick wall limiter and whatnot. So there's alternative ways to go about it. The whole point of this video is that headroom only matters if you don't have a brick wall limiter at your end. But even then, once you decide to export, there's this normalize function to like save your project from ever going to over 0 dB. So hope this video kind of clears it up, and I hope this was informative, and hope this makes sense now. If something still doesn't make sense, let me know in the comments. And yeah, once again, wishing you a happy new year, and see you in the next one.